Hey everybody, it's Story Flux, call me Flux for short, or whatever you want to call me. And in the last episode of Donkey Kong Country Returns, we finished up every required level in the game. Aside from the final boss, of course. And in this episode, we're gonna take on one last K level, 8K 5 Monkey Trial. For the last K level, I'm kind of not sure what to think about this one, because it's kind of easy, kind of hard. Like, so you don't get Diddy Kong, at least not in single player, unless you bring him in from outside the level, so that makes it harder. But the way this level is kind of structured is a lot different from the other K levels. As the name of the level kind of implies, it's 5 separate trials, sort of. And I feel like having Diddy Kong makes all of them easier, especially some of them, but basically every trial you complete, you get a puzzle piece, and then a barrel onward. So you have to get all the puzzle pieces in this level, pretty much. Unless you go out of your way to avoid them. The trials all involve dodging enemies and obstacles to get banana coins. You might also notice, speaking of banana coins, that I went and spent a bunch. But, yeah, that's the thing, is Diddy Kong really, I don't want to say breaks, but he kind of makes this level a lot easier. And the other thing is I feel like this is a pretty good example of a level that's a whole lot easier in 2-player mode, in co-op mode. Because in single-player mode, you have to time all this. In co-op, you can kind of time things out in a way that you separate who is at risk. And also, again, on things like this, hover really helps. But you get 5 banana coins, which gets you a puzzle piece, and you do that 5 times. That one is pretty simple, honestly. Also, each trial is represented by a monkey holding a different type of fruit that explodes into the puzzle piece when you get all the coins. This 4th trial, okay, yeah, it's not easy, but it's not hard. But I seem to remember having a lot of trouble with that one in particular. I think the first one is actually going to be the one that gives me the most trouble this time. I mean, unless yeah, because, see, it's so hard to time that one without getting hurt. Okay. I could also just not jump when I press the jump button. This is kind of why I was saying that I feel like this level might or might not end up in a separate its own episode, because, and the other thing is having to time everything. It just sort of ends up making the level feel really repetitive, because of the fact, well, I mean, all of the levels are really repetitive when you can't get through when you can't use checkpoints, but this level in particular, I feel like, because of the way it's separated into 5 separate challenges, and if you fail on like the 4th or 5th one, you have to start all the way back from the first. But this one, it's kind of dodging these enemies. Yeah, well, but it's, well, the rotating drum, and it's just sort of really weird to time, and no, I do not want your help. Okay. I know I just kind of stopped talking there for a bit. Okay, if I can get through that one without taking damage now, that might actually be really helpful. Oh, jeez. See, that's what you're not supposed to do, is mess up the pattern like that. Or just fall into the pit because you're not paying careful enough attention. I don't know. See, that's the thing, is like, part of me wants to put this in the same episode as the finale, and part of me feels like odds are, even if it takes me a while, with editing, it'll end up being a lot shorter than a full episode will be, just the amount of time I spend on this. But it's, all that said, it's just sort of, I feel like this is also kind of a weird thing to put at the beginning of the same episode that's technically the story finale. Also, especially because of that, because a lot of the stuff in this particular level, I just sort of don't have a whole lot to say about. It's just, once I've done it once, it's, yeah, it's there. But yeah, things like this where the danger is either, the dangers of this section are sliding too far off of the edge, like there, or getting hit by the bat things. Okay, so 4 out of 5, 1 more to go, and this one is another one that hover helps with immensely. You gotta, especially because you gotta kind of jump and grab those banana coins in midair, and also jumping back and forth just a lot, but as well as just running out of the way to dodge those spike things. Also this. Yeah. You have to somehow dodge that, and if you don't have hover, good luck. Like, what the heck am I supposed to do there? Other than just get there with 2 hits left and tank one. Oh, no, I can't do it now. I can't do that last part. I know it can be done. I just, without Diddy Kong, that last part is just ridiculous. And, again, I don't know if I'm just bad, but I don't feel like any of the others, other than that first one and that last one, are even really that hard. And even that last one, the only hard part is at the very end of it. Also, almost falling into the pit because of weird. Right, so it's like I can't really say that this one is one of the easiest K levels or one of the hardest, because it's both. Like, it has some of the easiest segments of it, like this, like that second and the third one. That's the second and third parts of this, and maybe even the fourth. I mean, the fourth gives me some trouble, but not nearly as much as the first or the last. And yeah, it's just yeah, I know I've lost like 13 lives on this already, and I've been recording it. See, I might as well not even continue now, because just the. And I don't really know the way these things are timed. You have to either just sort of wait a while. Also, if you're lucky, you can kind of cheat the pattern there by sort of hovering while they fall down, but that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. And if you don't have Diddy Kong, what's the point? I'm not sure how I managed to weave through that. No. And I also feel like there's just a lot that I'm just gonna be speeding up or cutting out. It's like there's not really a whole lot of point. But say if you fall off there, that's the other thing. But no, it's like okay. That's how you do that without getting hurt, but it still seems like a really weird thing to time. I'm honestly thinking I'm just going to stop talking and just sort of cut to when I actually finish this, or get back to the last one at least, or get back to the end of the last one, because I've done most of it. I got 1 coin from the end of the trial. That's not a place I'm supposed to be taking damage. Also, if it's not really all that evident, this is a really weird place. It's like you can get tons of banana coins, but there's no bananas and no extra lives. And what the heck? Okay, something is outside my door. Okay. Okay, can we actually do this properly now? Also, if you missed the coin, I'm pretty sure it makes you redo that particular round at some point. Maybe it does it. Maybe you have to redo it at the end. Maybe you redo it before you move on to the next one. But no, here we are back to this. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. There. Got the last one. That's the end of the level. And you get the final orb, which is red. I'm gonna have to cut out so much of that. But because of that, I think we're ready. I think that we are ready to go on to the final boss. 8 boss, the World 8 boss, the final boss, Tiki Tong Terror, which is a really weird sounding name, but hey, go with it. We're going with it. This boss, it's not as hard as the chicken is, at least in my opinion. But it might very well take me longer. And there's a few reasons for that. So, just kind of run up, and unlike other world bosses, there's this whole cutscene before you even approach it of just Donkey Kong just staring up at the tower. And yep, now you have Diddy Kong, which you do get him before this segment. And I said this segment, yes. We're taking another vertical rocket barrel, and this one is actually somewhat harder. You have to speed up and swerve around in order to dodge the things. Basically, this one can actually kill you. Especially, yeah, see, there's actually a threat of dying. But at least you get Diddy Kong. I can safely say that that has never happened before. At least not to me. Yeah, let's... Also, the version of the rocket barrel music that plays in this particular segment sounds kind of cool, honestly. And a lot of the music in this game sounds really cool, which that's going to be something that's going to come up later in this video, is the music again. So don't just lose sight of those balloons, because they are actually going to be a threat. And I don't know if I've ever noticed that they sort of chase you a bit, or I might just happen to be like already in the paths that they were going anyway. But no, you really have to be on your guard for this segment. And it goes on a lot longer than the one before the World 7 boss did. And you just kind of fly up and into the mouth of the tower. And apparently crashed and crash landed there, but inside the tower are bananas. But it's not gonna be that easy. All of these Tikis are back, of course. And that appears to be their leader. And yeah, this is a weird cutscene, admittedly. But they're throwing all of our bananas into the leader, and then yeah, this is weird. Yeah, my reaction exactly, Donkey Kong. And all of the other Tikis basically just sort of sacrifice themselves to turn into his hands. Yeah, that's not normal, but let's go ahead and fight him, which is one thing that this game is criticized for a lot, is that this boss is considered rather unoriginal because Nintendo really seems to like making bosses that are basically a giant face with two disembodied hands. But also I am not handling this nearly as efficiently as I could have been. But the first phase of this fight, you have to destroy his hands. Two hits on either of them, and also you have to jump over those hands. Do it like kind of like what I was doing there. He can sometimes like pop a heart out, which I could actually use that heart. Okay, not sure how that all worked out. That was a little bit weird. But yeah, it's just all kind of in reading his patterns and just sort of making sure that you don't get squished. He does actually have like a some decent tells before he actually uses him, but sometimes he does fake you out before when he actually attacks. But once you've dealt with his hands, you still have to deal with like the main body, which, yeah, that's a little bit tricky to time sometimes. Okay, and also if you lose Diddy Kong, I should mention this, but I'm not going to say it quite out until also, yeah, now that you've faced him, his silhouette appears. You do not get Diddy Kong back in single player if you die or lose him, which makes this boss, again, I feel like this boss is a lot easier in multiplayer. It's still possible to dodge all of his attacks with just Donkey Kong, but it's not nearly as manageable. Also, I get some, because it needs to be said at some point, this music, it is, to some extent, it's an arrangement of the music that plays, that like each of the Tikis play, kind of play to hypnotize the other bosses. It's honestly, it's not very much like any other songs in the game, which kind of fits because the Tikis, like as antagonists, are kind of outside the context of the rest of the game. It's like they're the driving antagonists, but they're not really something that Donkey Kong would be used to. They don't fit. That's kind of why they're the antagonists. And I feel like the song kind of really works for that. And interestingly, the main composer for this game is Kenji Yamamoto, I believe, or at least he was one of the main composers. It might have been others, and his most famous composing work, at least that I know of, he also is the lead composer on the Metroid Prime trilogy, also made by Retro Studios. And I feel like this particular song during this fight really kind of captures that feeling a bit more. It's like, it sounds more like something off of the Metroid Prime soundtrack to me than something off of a Donkey Kong Country soundtrack. But yet, it still has that kind of tribal feel to it that it fits, and I kind of dig it. I mean, it's kind of a silly way of putting it, but I really sort of do like how it kind of feels as a final boss theme. It just sort of works, and I don't know why. But also, I'm starting to feel like I might have bitten off more than I can chew, especially because, like I said, you don't get Diddy Kong back, and he makes this fight a lot easier. In multiplayer, you can bring back one Kong or the other as long as one stays alive, you can bring the other back. Also, wow, that was really close timing as far as not losing my ducking. But no, it's just sort of in the co-op, you can bring one Kong back as long as the other is still there. So it makes fights like this a little bit easier as long as like you just have the one who has two hearts play it a little bit safe until the other one dies and can be brought back. But yeah, jump on that to damage him there. Also, yeah, he just sort of swoops around a little bit. So you kind of have to make sure you... Also, the wave of fire that he sends out is not fun. But yeah, no, this boss fight is... I've seen a lot of people describe this as an underwhelming final boss compared to some of the other bosses in the game being a lot harder. But I still find it difficult, especially in single player. But for the first phase, the attacks are not that bad to watch the timing of and dodge. It's just learning the patterns. I will agree that this boss fight isn't necessarily hard, but it's still... It manages to be hard kind of in the way that there's a lot of ways to mess up, and again, any of the boss fights in this game tend to be rather unforgiving about health, because you only have 2 hits. You only have 2 hits per Kong. So it's not necessarily hard, but you don't really have much room for error. And I mean, that's the same for any Donkey Kong Country game. It's like, I mean, heck, you had 1 hit per Kong in the other ones, and you just sort of could have 2 Kongs at once, just like in this one. But yeah, but now, even with twice as much health, there's still a lot more opportunities to mess up. Well, maybe not more, but there are a lot of opportunities, and there were in the other games too. I would say that the Donkey Kong Country series has always had relatively tricky boss fights. Also, dodging those flaming things is not easy. That's 2 hits. I believe this is the final phase of the boss fight. So I just have 1 more hit to go. But again, there's still a lot of ways to mess this up. And even if the patterns are definitely easier to learn and dodge and avoid than, say, the chicken, I wouldn't say it's... I would still say this qualifies as a difficult boss fight if you're not prepared. Wait, when did I take that first... I'm not sure when I took that first bit of damage. Anyway. Also, you can land on the hands on that attack, but it's not... That attack where he kind of smashes the ground is definitely the easiest place to time it and get a hit. Duck. Yeah, see, he moves his hands away too fast on that attack. But, yeah, it's just sort of... And the other thing is, the repetition gets a little bit... I mean, it gets a little bit old just having to do the same phase multiple times. Also, I like bouncing on the side of his hand there, just to kind of dodge the attack. It's just sort of... That is probably one of the harder attacks to avoid if you don't know you can do that. But... Yeah, even... Also, I like how he just sort of smashes you against the wall, but the wall looks like empty space because of the way the battlefield is kind of... Okay. I really don't know if I have much more to say right now. I just sort of... That's the problem with me. That's one of my problems with Let's Playing right now I'm noticing, is that whenever I have to do something repetitive, like just kind of do something over and over again, I don't know what to say. And also, the other thing is, this game is just, in general, it's really easy to mess up what you're doing. Wow, I kind of timed that jump just perfectly. Also, whenever he kind of like scrapes his hand along the ground to kind of smush you a little bit, he takes longer to lift his hand away, so you get a better shot at jumping on the weak point. When he does that, that's kind of a trap in some ways. Also, when he fakes you out, you sometimes laugh. Okay. See,
I keep seeing people say this is one of the easier boss fights in the game. I don't agree. It's not as hard as the chicken, I don't believe, but it's still harder than... I would say that the chicken boss and maybe the bird are the only ones that I've ever had as hard a time with as this guy. And maybe like a couple of the other ones in this particular LP where I've just had Let's Players hit like crazy, but no. I don't know, it's just sort of weird thinking that this is the finale, because I'm fighting the final boss. And I guess it makes sense this is going to be a bit of a longer video because of the final boss, but I might also just kind of cut out a lot of my failed attempts at it. Because who wants to see me fighting the final boss over and over again? Also, all of the like kind of cave painting things of animals and tikis kind of flying by in the background. It's kind of neat. But no. Okay, so that's the first phase. The second phase, I wouldn't necessarily say is any harder. I will agree that that's one thing that I find a little bit disappointing is that they don't really scale the difficulty of this boss within itself. Like, you don't really get a sense of him fighting harder or anything like that, or even him getting weaker as you fight him. It just sort of feels like you have two different phases, which at least there's two different phases that you fight differently. But even then, both of them just kind of amount to dodging attacks and waiting for an opportunity to strike, which isn't necessarily a bad way to do a boss, but it's kind of vanilla in some ways. Also, that heart is on fire, so you kind of have to wait for the fire to go out to be able to grab it, which is kind of threatening, but not really. Also, he is doing like a whole lot of attacks here. Okay, will you smash, jump? Okay, again, he just sort of... Okay, it's like, I don't like how he suddenly just takes no time, and especially with the hover, because the hover is how you set yourself up to actually hit him quickly. If you don't have the hover, you have to just be running, because you can only dodge his attack and jump over it from so far away. You kind of have to actually be paying like really ridiculously close attention. Also, I hate how it's really random, like when the hearts will pop out from some of his attacks and when they won't, because oftentimes he'll be giving you hearts when you don't actually need health. But if you need health, you don't get any. At least on the later phase, I think it's actually based on whether you need the heart or not, whether one pops out. But see, I don't need that heart. But he decided to give it to me anyway. But half the time, when I already got hit on this first phase, I didn't get one. Okay. Yeah, you gotta jump over that. Yeah, so this is kind of one of the things about this fight. Is that, yeah, it's just sort of... Okay, now that I'm back on the second phase, I think I'm just gonna stop commentating on the first phase now, because it's been like almost 40 minutes that I've been recording. But yeah, see, the first time you hit him there, he leaves himself vulnerable for a little while. I feel like that's the easier of the two fire-based attacks that he does to dodge. But it can also be the harder depending on how you set yourself up. Okay. But because he sends out fewer, but he still sets things up so that why are you doing so many? And if you have to jump twice, you have to jump twice. Once to get over the fire, once to jump into the weak spot. Okay. And again, he didn't do a heart, so even if I dodged that, I still would have been at 1 heart.
Okay, for some reason he gave me a heart every time he pounded the ground that run, and he didn't actually, I didn't ever actually need it, but okay. So jump in, do 1 damage. Okay, so now what kind of attack are you gonna try and, what? Really, again? Already? I mean, I'm not gonna complain that you give me 2 hits in a row, but... Okay, just wait for the heart to not be on fire. Kind of run under here. Those things kind of follow you a bit, so you have to get to a point where you... And wow, that second phase was really short. But yeah, that's it. We beat him. And we got launched all the way to the moon for some reason. But for some reason, Donkey Kong gets an idea and decides to punch the moon. Scientifically accurate, this is not. I don't know, that's just such a funny scene. And then the volcano erupts, pushes the moon all the way back up into orbit, and the volcanic eruption is bananas instead of lava. You know, I was talking in the last episode about how I wonder how much of things was scientifically accurate, and it was probably not much. I'm pretty sure this cutscene just kind of turns to science and just flips it off. This game just flipped off everything about science. And yet, it's done amazingly. But no. For that, we unlock a bunch of bonus things because of everything. And, yeah. That's it. That's the end of the game. More or less. But, yeah. I guess now that the credits are rolling, I can just sort of take some time to just sort of talk about this project. Because I had this idea in mind for a little while before I actually did anything to put it into motion. And I recorded the first few episodes long before I did most of the rest of the game. And I feel like that kind of got it off to a slow start. And also, I don't know really how to say this, but I don't really know if I did this game very well. I still enjoyed Let's Playing it, and I'm not regretting that I did it. But I don't necessarily think that my Let's Playing skills are up to what I want them to be. And this game kind of taught me a lot about why that is. It's like what I need to work on. And I don't know, it just sort of kind of came across as a little interesting to me that I enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed playing it, and I still had fun doing the LP, even if I didn't always sound like it. But I think that there are a few things that I just sort of could have done a lot better. Commentary, I need to keep a constant flow and not just sort of drop talking after a while just because I can't think of anything to say. I need to be able to think of things to say at those points where I'm not having anything really specifically going on. So that's a little bit, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is like I really need to be, I need to get more into the groove of commentating a lot. And I mean, there's a lot of different things I can do to do that. Music supervisor Kenji Yamamoto. Okay, so Kenji Yamamoto was a supervisor, not a composer. Okay, but no, he was the guy who did the like Metroid Prime trilogy and maybe some of the other Metroid games. I don't know, but yeah, I'm getting distracted again. But no, so it's just like I feel like I could have done this whole thing a lot better, and so yeah, it's just sort of. There were a lot of ways that I feel like this particular Let's Play was not quite up to my standards of what I would want to watch. When I edit the videos for this, I've tended lately to, especially lately, to be just kind of watching the whole thing on fast forward, especially because I don't really want to take a whole lot of time to editing if I can help it. But and a lot of the time I'm just watching it is just to kind of make sure that I cut everywhere that I need to and kind of speed up sections I need to, cut where I need to, all that, just so I make sure everything is timed right and it's done. But even then, it's like I don't like to watch myself at normal speed. I can only really stand my commentary. I can only stand my commentary when it's sped up for some reason, and I don't know why. But I don't know. I guess I'm done talking about like all the problems I had with this LP, especially because the credits are over now. But no. All that said, I really did enjoy it, and I'm glad that I actually had something to kind of tell me what I need to work on. Also, is this a hint at something to come? Perhaps we will cover something else in a bonus episode. See you guys then.